I'm here today with Eric Spry at Bolton Insulation.
Sir,
Appreciate you coming out here today and to educate our homeowners on what you do in your field of expertise with insulation and all the little nuances that you do with insulation.
yeah, absolutely. So it's install day, as you can see. We've got some guys working in the background. So this is the day that we do the walls on a new construction home. This is the final step. It's a really important step. This is the last hidden thing before drywall. So with that, insulation install is incredibly important, and the method that we install is incredibly important. And it works with how we want to put together the total package for the home. Something that we do with Diggs that is unique in our industry is a lot of general contractors will just let each individual subcontractor do their part, almost independent of each other. And you guys do a great job of coordinating, communicating with all of us. So we all have the same goal in mind. We all have the same plan in mind. And one thing that Diggs does is they pursue HERS ratings on their new construction homes. And with that, we are seeking well above and beyond basic energy code for the performance of our homes. So one thing here with this particular home, it's a great example, is we reduced the air leakage on this home from 5 air changes per hour, which is basic code for Washington State, down to 3 air changes per hour or less. So going from 5 to 3, it's a lot of numbers I'm going to throw out there. Going from 5 to 3 is a 40% reduction in the air leakage of your home. 40%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And with air goes heat.
Yes, or cooling, depending on the season. As we're having, obviously hotter summers. That's part of it as well. The other thing, and in the era of COVID, I feel like we've started to grasp this concept a little bit better in the trades, and I think homeowners are also more aware of it. It gives us an opportunity to really control that indoor air quality of the home. By less air leakage, that's less that we're losing for heat and cool. That's also less contaminants that are possibly entering the home, and that could be pollen. So people that have allergen issues.
Yep.
That could be if you live in an area that's maybe in a high traffic area. That's a lot of vehicle exhaust fumes,
smog, pollution.
I mean, just imagine
pollen,
being able to
dust.
In a couple extra hours of work for us and a relatively minimal increased cost to the homeowner. Imagine being able to reduce all those things by 40% or more.
So traditional code is what, 5 ACH?
Yeah, 5 ACH, which is air changes per hour.
So that means the whole envelope of the house, right, would be circulated within what period of time?
Roughly 5 times within a 1 hour time span.
So it's 1 hour, all the air in the entire house would be circulated, and our goal is to get it down to 3 or less.
3 or less, yeah. Which we've been really successful with. We have a pretty good plan in place. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. One thing with Diggs is that the coordination between us and the framing contractors and your siding contractors and your window package and your door package, all those things go together. We've made changes to the way that we've done certain designs on some of these homes to allow for less air leakage. And that's just 40% is incredible. Another thing that we do in the pursuit of well above code insulation is that we take your basic code requirements for insulation for Washington State. It's going to be an R21 in your exterior walls, and R value is just your thermal resistance value. It's how we measure insulation. So our value of R21 in exterior walls, R30 in the crawl space, and R49 in the attic. We upgrade that. And so in addition to reducing that air leakage, we upgrade to an R23 in your exterior walls.
From a 21.
From a 21. We upgrade from an R30 to an R38 in the floor. And we upgrade from an R49 all the way up to an R60 in the attic.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
R60.
It's
I mean, how thick is that? I mean,
21 inches. So R49 is roughly 16, we'll call it 17, it's about 16 and a half inches. We always blow a little more. And then R60 is about 21 inches of insulation.
It's so great because you do a lot of remodels and you see these older homes, and after 10 years or 20 years, if it's very thin, it's really thin after 10 years.
Yeah, and especially depending on the era of the home. Yeah. So with all of our modern insulation products, there's no settling. So that 20 inches that I blow for you, when drywall's done in this house and we come and blow the attic insulation in, that 20 inches, barring something crazy happening, like a tree falls through the roof and the insulation gets compressed, that insulation will never settle on its
It's got
own.
a structural component to it, so it doesn't.
Correct. Yeah,
inflate
the
over.
binding agents in that blow-in fiberglass, that will never settle.
Yep.
Now that has not been the case historically. And I see 15 different types of insulation when we look at older homes. And for
You ever seen a newspaper?
yes, I've seen newspaper in walls.
I know.
I've seen beer cans in walls. I've
We
seen
did a remodel. It was a 1914 house. We pulled it off and we're like, holy! I mean, and of course it was just a quarter in the wall.
Yep.
We pulled it out and we're like, look, houses are $6,000 in 1914.
Oh, you can get a new car for $1,400.
Yeah.
Really, so for the people at home, right? And the reason we're doing this is to have an opportunity for potential buyers and new clients to see what we do. For you at home living in your existing house, if you have an opportunity, grab a ladder, stick your head up in your attic, and you're going to see anywhere from probably 0 inches of insulation. The average house built anytime before the mid 1970s is going to have about 4 inches, unless you've upgraded it. And then we didn't get to code for R30, which would be about 10 inches of insulation. That didn't become code till 1994 in the state of Washington. So if your home was built before 1994, you're woefully inadequate, and you're going to see that on your utility bills.
And just a couple years ago, all the builders, I mean, it was R38, right?
Yep.
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah, so two energy code cycles back.
Which is a big improvement.
Yeah, and going from 38 to 49, and for everything we do is based on our climate zone. So if you live in Alaska, there's a different building strategy that we do, for energy efficiency. If you live in Montana, if you live in Eastern Washington, we do things a little bit different. But for our climate zone and everywhere that we work and we build,
For Western Washington.
we're in climate zone 4C here, which is technically a rainforest. So there's a lot of interesting things that we have to do from a building science perspective, insulation, framing, windows, the way that we get these houses to perform at their best, living in a rainforest. So there's a lot of stuff that goes in with that.
So what we just kind of, to recap what you just said, so a big thing is a lot of builders out there are building the ACH just to the minimum code.
Yep.
So they can get their credits so that they can get permits.
Yep.
Which is typically about 4.5 or 5.
Yep.
And our objective is to get it down to 3 or less. And again, this is a HERS rated third-party verification company that verifies that you did your job.
Yep.
And that what we're selling to the homeowner, they're actually receiving the benefits of what we're charging them for you to do.
Correct. Yeah. So, and that is a difference you'll see of different companies. The state of Washington has not yet enacted the requirement for third-party verification. And what we're talking about here, when we measure that air leakage of the home, it's what's called a blower door test. A blower door test, if you can imagine taking almost like a metal frame, putting it in your front door, attaching a baggie to it with a big hole for a fan. So if this was our front door, we'd have a frame with a big baggie in it. There's a giant fan that gets put in there, and that fan gets connected to a small computer called a manometer, and we measure airflow based on the inside of the house and the outside of the house. So we'll put the house under negative pressure. We're going to suck all the air out of the house through that fan. We're going to measure it with that manometer. We're going to compare that to the air pressure outside. And what that allows us to do in is a relatively short period of time, in a 10-15 minute span, we can measure that full simulated hours worth of air leakage in the home.
So that's doors, fans, anything with a vent.
Doors, window, any penetration. Doors, windows, microwaves.
It gets all sealed off, so it's true. The house is truly sealed.
Yep.
So that if we have any air leakage through the sheetrock, like through the
Through a
can lights,
yeah.
Electrical plugs.
Yep. It measures that, and you'll, and when you measure that too, the house gets put under negative pressure. Negative 50 pascals is the setting for that by code. And then we measure that air leakage, and a little bit of a mathematical formula. I won't bore everybody with that.
It's a lot of math.
But we measure the air leakage of the home, and the state of Washington has not yet required that is done by an independent third party. So there are a lot of builders that have their own blower door guy. There's a lot of insulation contractors that have their own blower door guy on staff. And unfortunately, that means that not every single blower door test that's done in the state of Washington on a new construction home is accurate.
Sure.
And
Well, you don't want to have to go out and redo work, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have to.
Yep.
But a third-party verification, they're disinterested. They're third party, whether it passes or fails. This is what it is. Versus, I've seen other no names.
no names.
I've seen other insulation companies. They have an in-house blower door test, and they kind of you know, we need this one to pass.
Hey, this one's a little bit high, and
Yeah.
there's unfortunately there's a lot of that. And so just a little bit about us. We've been around for 74 years. We're a fourth generation family company. We did our own blower doors at one point. I was actually the person that trained the people that did the blower doors for us. About 5 years ago, we made the decision. I saw the writing on the wall with what the state was doing, and there were other builders that would want to twist our arm. And I made the decision for our company that we weren't going to do that. And we didn't do it anyway, but I wanted to take it out of the equation. And I wanted to hold builders accountable. And I wanted to say, hey, us as the longest running insulation contractor in the state.
How many years?
74, so not since 1948. We do it this way. We do it this way for a reason, and hopefully force some of the other people in my side of the industry to step their game up too. Because at the end of the day, we all want our homeowners to get what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Construction costs have gone up. We know that. We're all aware of that. Building science has changed. We're building these houses better, tighter, more energy efficient.
Well, I think everyone wants that green. Everyone wants clean water, clean air. They want to help the environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the benefits of having a well insulated home is the energy savings.
Yep.
Having comfort.
Yep.
Clean air.
And you can address the same problem in multiple ways. Do we want to have to keep building more power plants? Well, no, of course not. That costs a lot of money, which means that your utility bills go up. Do we want to pay, if we're in this home in the dead of winter, do I want to pay to heat up outside? Of course not. If it's the heat of summer,
universe is a big place to heat.
yeah, I'm not trying to cool down, my driveway, right? I want to contain that. Combine that with indoor air quality, which is huge. As a kid, I had really bad allergies. We lived in California. I was allergic to eucalyptus of all things, and my allergic reaction to that was insane. I mean, hay fever type stuff. Imagine being able to change your indoor air quality where you're eliminating that. Now, the majority of air that's coming into the house is going through some type of filtration.
Yeah.
That would have made my entire childhood better.
Yeah,
It's
like a HEPA filter on the whole house.
Exactly, and that's a great way to look at it. So anyway, so we went and we did independent third party. We found an independent blower door company. They do blower door tests. They do duct leakage stuff for HVAC work. And it said, here's the deal. You guys will call you to schedule these jobs. I don't want the results. The results go to the contractor. That's it. And that's all there is to it. And since we've done that, it's one less thing that we're having to tie together on our end. But realistically, it reinforces that this is going to be done right. And when a builder fails for whatever reason, we figure out these are the things that caused it to fail. We fix those things and we retest.
One of the things that I want to show the viewers is the plate sealing that you guys do.
Okay.
So I'll move the camera so we can see some of the exterior wall sealing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so here we are at an exterior wall. And so, talking about the ACH, what's the benefit? What do you do and what's the benefit of that?
Sure. So we have, this is actually the garage sheet wall, so it's treated as an exterior wall. This wall here is the wall that separates the indoor conditioned, heated or cooled space and the garage, which is an unconditioned space. So a couple things you'll see. So this top plate up here, which is where you'll see the 2 2x6s at the top plate, and you'll see a white foam line there. That's a really squishy, incredibly squishy foam. That's called sill seal. And what we're doing is we're reducing the air leakage that comes from the wall where you have an electrical outlet, where you have a wall switch, where you have maybe a fan, anything like that. That air can get into that wall cavity, and then if you think about it, if there's no seal at the top, if there's no type of gasket, essentially, all that's keeping that there is just drywall and a couple of screws. Really easy for air to leak up through that space.
Right.
So by installing that gasket there that the drywall actually sits on and then gets sucked tight to with the screws, we reduce any of that air leakage in your walls.
Yeah.
We do that.
Heat rises.
Exactly. And we do that for all exterior and interior walls. And on average, it reduces air leakage by at least 1 full ACH. So that's kind of our first one.
And then I noticed you've got foam penetration seal.
Yes. So Washington State Energy Code requires what we call a caulk seal. The seal portion of that, any vertical penetration, so anything that goes through a top plate, bottom plate, any framing that runs vertically gets sealed with fire foam. There's 2 purposes for that. So Washington State Energy Code requires that we do a caulk and seal on any new construction package. And part of that is ensuring that we seal every vertical penetration. So anything that goes through framing gets sealed. Two purposes. One, air leakage, which for us on the energy efficiency side. But two, the true purpose for is actually for fire code. When you drill a hole through that framing to run your wiring and to run your plumbing, you're creating a chase that in the event that you had any type of fire, it could jump from cavity to cavity quickly. So we use a fire rated foam to seal those holes off. So at least it has to burn through that 2x6 instead of
On the exteriors.
exactly.
Yeah.
And with that, it buys you time as a homeowner. It buys you time to get out of your house in the event you ever do have a fire. We also seal bottom plates. So you can see this caulk line down here at the bottom. So that's where the 2x6, the bottom part of the wall, meets the subfloor. That's a common air leakage point, right? You have two similar type materials, two wood-based materials coming together. Wherever there's that seam, we want to be able to seal that. That's part of a standard caulk and seal as well, and that is to reduce air leakage. We also do anywhere outside corners, so where you have, this ties into an interior wall, so you don't see it here. But if this was an exterior wall and this other wall was also an exterior wall, where that corner comes together, we would seal that all the way up, the entire vertical seam of the wall, just because that's another place that you have air leakage.
And then in these corners, you tuck insulation behind.
Exactly, and on this exterior wall, you can see my hand tucks in pretty good. Actually, I'll come down here. You can see my hand tucks good on this wall. The insulation gets sealed all the way around the corner, all the way to the next piece of framing, and then in the next room over, we would pick that up. This is a great example of an outside corner. So two walls of the house come together, an exterior wall here and another exterior wall here. Where that framing comes together, we run caulking that goes from all the way at the top plate, all the way down past the bottom plate to where it meets the subfloor. This is another common air leakage point. These are things that get missed a lot. These are things that, based on your insulation contractor, your framing there's a lot of things that get missed that cause buildings to leak more than they should. Same thing with where you have insulation that might tuck around a corner. It doesn't get shoved in there all the way. They don't fully seal around the corner. You have a gap. You'll see that a lot in houses where like a closet wall meets that exterior wall and there's that framing over it and they just don't tuck insulation.
So Eric, would it be fair to say that if you didn't have a third-party verification company, things like that could be missed and they wouldn't get repaired?
Yeah, it could. And those are things that they're small on their own, but when you add them up over the span of a 2,500 square foot house, each one of those little things adds up a lot. And it doesn't take much for you to get to the point that your house is leaking more air, not only than it should, than basic code requires, but it's leaking more than you want. You don't want to pay for that. You don't want to pay for heating and cooling outside. You don't want to pay to have more dust in your home, more indoor air contaminants in your home.
Why pay $38 a month more than what you need to on a tight home?
And add that up, right? So if we want to start talking about cost-benefit analysis, which everybody needs to do, the increased cost just on the insulation portion of a home to take it from basic code to what we do with a HERS rating is anywhere from 10 to 15%. And on the surface, you're like, that's a lot of money. And I get it, that's a lot of money. Let's say for a home this size, let's say increase the cost to insulate this home by $1,000. But if you can save $50 a month on your utility bill between your increased R values and your reduced air leakage, it doesn't take very long to recoup that cost. There's very few things you can do for your home that you're going to get that return on investment as quickly.
Yeah, not even solar. It's a 20-year return.
Yeah.
For $45,000.
And the panels only last 20 years.
Right.
So as with current technology. So yeah, this is actually one of those things. If I was going to build a home and I had the option between pursuing a HERS rating and adding solar panels, and those were my two choices, I would always pursue the HERS rating.
Right.
It's going to have the most impact on your life, on your, the comfort of you with your home, your relationship with your home. Yeah. Solar panels are great. Sure. My electricity bill is less than it would be, but I'm still leaking a lot of air. I'm still paying to heat up or cool down outside. I haven't addressed my indoor air quality, all those things.
And we're not saying solar's bad. I love solar. Solar's great. But for the money, for the extra little bit, you get it's a lot more bang for the dollar.
Especially in the new construction phase,
yeah.
Right? When we have the opportunity, when we're wide open like this and we can address these things, all those things that you can make your home more energy efficient, your bang for your buck is immediate.
Yeah.
with solar, it's not. It does take longer to recoup that. I love solar as well. I'm waiting for the day that solar technology comes just a little bit further.
Yep.
So especially for storing that power. So here we are. We're now in the master suite of this particular house. You get to see install on an exterior wall. We also have some install on interior walls that we do for sound. Sound control is actually really important, and it's a very cost-effective measure with your home. Reduces anywhere from 30 to 45 decibels, I would say, for voice transmission between walls. It also helps maintain the individual heating and cooling in your spaces. So depending on the HVAC system that you have, and we'll get into some more HVAC questions here in just a second, but depending on the HVAC system that you have, it allows you to control that master. Maybe you like to be cooler in the master, and so you have an individual, like a ductless heat pump or a mini splitter.
So that's what they're looking at here. This is the master suite.
Yep.
And we have insulated interior walls. And so you're saying the benefit of that?
Yeah, so you have sound. So first and foremost is for sound. Reduces some of the echo bounce that you get, especially in a home like this. We have 10-foot exterior walls here, so we have a little more volume.
But people like
little
that
cavern.
People like that soundproofing if you know you want to sleep in, and
Sure.
you know your mate opens the garage up, you can hear all that noise, or you got kids playing video games
Yep.
and you want to go to sleep early and relax.
So I'll always recommend, and this is just basic standard stuff here. I'll always recommend that you do a master bedroom suite area, that you do some sound insulation in there, and that you do bathrooms.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, sound and bathrooms.
Yes.
Just makes sense, and it's very, very, very cost effective.
So we encourage that with all of our homeowners. Of course, as a full custom, they can build it any way they want.
Correct.
But it's definitely something that we encourage.
Yeah, it's nice to have those conversations with either your builder or your insulation contractor and say, this is kind of what we have. I like to ask people if they have kids. I'll give you an example. I had a builder this 3 or 4 years ago, really nice couple, and we don't need to do any sound insulation. I said, do you have children? He goes, yeah. I said, how old are your kids? 6 and 4. Let's do some sound.
Yeah.
And I said, and this is what it's going to cost you. And he goes, so I can do my master for $260? Yeah. Yeah, okay, we'll do some sound.
Good investment.
Yeah, and as they get older and they have friends and their sleepovers, and again, you want to sleep in, and the kids are in the living room listening, just there's a lot of ways it's an easy investment. But the other part, beyond sound, which is just, extra, the comfort. If you want to control each individual space in your home temperature-wise, it allows you to do that. And you don't have to go crazy. We don't have to pursue the products that are marketed and labeled as sound insulation. Regular standard R11 fiberglass batt insulation will provide you the exact same. You would never notice the difference in performance.
Reduces vibration.
And it traps air, right? And the air is what sound travels on.
Someone's mowing the lawn next door. You want to read a book or sleep, relax. You hear the drum set next door.
Exactly.
Or at least
anything.
it cuts it down.
Anything.
It reduces vibration.
And you have water pipes through the walls, waste lines in the walls, stuff like that. Things that are going to have material flow through them. You reduce that sound as well. It really is, from a cost benefit perspective. It's a really nice way to make your home feel really tight. Another thing that we're going to talk about here is quality of install and the way install works when we talk about HERS ratings. So with a HERS rating, all homes in Washington State in new construction are going to get inspected by whatever the local jurisdiction is. So county or city inspector is going to come out and they're going to inspect this insulation before they approve it to be covered with drywall. Again, this is the last thing that happens to a home before drywall. And so this is we're hidden. And it's very important. Quality is incredibly important. For us in particular, and one of the things that works out really well working with Diggs, I don't have a single installer that's been with me for less than 10 years. So the majority of my installers have been with us for a really, really, really long time. They do very high quality work. We do continued education with all of them. We do training sessions constantly. I'll go out in the field when we're doing, like today is a really good example. Before we started shooting the video, I came through, I walked through with my guys, I saw what they were up to. Everything looks good. So we didn't have to do any corrections today, but this is something that we provide as a service to all of our builder clients, and on the retrofit side, we'll do free inspections.
That was really what drawed us to Bolton, is the quality. No matter what you do, there's always a cheaper set of hands out there.
Correct.
We're not the cheapest builder.
No, I'm not the cheapest insulator.
By far.
Yeah. I'm not the most expensive either, but I'm not
That's
the
right.
cheapest. I'm not the cheapest.
Yeah, but we want in our homeowners are focused on quality,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what brings you guys here versus ABC insulation or whatever.
Exactly. And, encourage everybody, you get multiple bids, right? Just like if you're going to build a home, you're going to hire someone to build your home. You're probably going to look at multiple
We
people.
verify your numbers before we hire you.
Yeah.
Every job.
Yeah. And everything, that goes into that.
Yeah.
But the quality matters. And I could beat this price by that $1,000. Oh, sure. I'll beat it by $1,000, but you're not going to get, R23 in your exterior walls. You're not going to get the reduced air leakage. You're not going to get all these things that I provide that other people either won't or can't.
Yeah.
And it comes with a guarantee. It comes with a guarantee and a knowledge that you have 74 years of people doing this stuff. We're not going to go out of business. We haven't had to change our name, and those things matter to us. And the relationships that we build with our builders is incredibly important. Anyway, we do continued education. We're always constantly training our guys. Anything ever new that comes out on a building science side, new product stuff that comes out, we stay on the cutting edge of that. I'm part of the state's building code council, so I get a little bit of a heads up when we do have code changes coming down, so I get to train my guys well in advance.
It's exhaustive. The last round that we had,
It's a full-time
it
job.
wiped everybody out, the architects,
Yeah.
and everybody.
Well, and we have another one coming up next summer that I'm already putting my plans together. So, and that's where we can help each other. And those relationships, like we talked about, really matters. The relationship that your builder has with each of their subcontractors ultimately determines how good your home is going to be built. The general contractor is going to handle the framing. The general contractor is going to make sure that the HVAC and all those things are done right. And the quality of that general contractor shows in the finished product. I see a lot of houses that I get a call about that was built by whoever, no names, but built by whoever 3 or 4 years ago, and this is wrong, and I'm experiencing this, and we had an inspection done, and there's no insulation over the back bedroom, or there's no, because corners were cut.
Yep.
We're not that company, never been that company, and we appreciate working with companies that want to do things, obviously, as good as possible. On the install side, just real quick, when we talked about HERS ratings, so HERS ratings require a level 1 install for your fiberglass bat insulation exterior walls. What level 1 install means is you have no visible gaps anywhere in what we call like the picture frame of each individual bay. It means that you have no areas where you see anything beyond like 3/4 of an inch on the inside face of the stud framing. We cut on the backside, so where you'll see wiring that'll run behind here. The insulation's slit on the backside, so it actually fits all the way around the wiring instead of just compressing on the wiring. All insulation gets its value by how deep it is. So when you just compress a piece of insulation, this R23 now becomes an R18 if you don't slit it.
Cutting those chases in there is really small, but those little details all add up to energy
Absolutely.
savings.
Well, heat's going to take the path of least resistance.
Yep.
And if I have an entire wall that's done really well except for one particular area, that's where heat's going to want to escape. That's where I'm going to have the least amount of thermal resistance. Same thing goes for windows. Standard code for windows for Washington State Energy Code is a 0.30 for U value on your windows. Diggs doesn't do that, and it's one of the things that allows us to help kind of guarantee the package that I can put together for you from an energy savings.
Most of ours are 0.28
Or better. I've seen 0.25s.
Yep.
And those are things when we're pursuing, again, HERS ratings. Yeah. So also with this wall, you'll see we do have a hollow header. So over windows and doors, the framing that goes over window doors is called a header. This is a hollow header. That'll get 1.5 inches of rigid foam board there. So in addition to the R value that you get from having a solid chunk of wood, we get an additional R10 on the face of that. So this wall is not complete yet, but in progress here today. Getting back into HERS ratings. One of the things that Diggs does that was very attractive and why we worked so well together, they want to pursue better than basic code requirements. You can go out and you can get anybody to build you a basic code compliant home. Above code matters. And as we pursue new energy code changes year after year in the state, and the state has a stated goal of carbon neutral by 2030.
Yep.
Right? So carbon neutral by the year 2030, the state wants to have all new construction be carbon neutral, be incredibly energy efficient. there's no reason why we can't pursue those things now when we can, and we have the technology to do that. So what we're looking to do is not only by reducing air leakage and increase R values, go with a better U value window package. All those things go hand in hand with each other. You know, our HVAC systems. That goes into a formula, and it tells me where I'm at above basic code. And so if basic code is a score of 100, anything below that I can get means that I'm that much higher percentage above code. I can get, and we've been doing this pretty consistently now for a number of years.
Yeah.
We're building homes that are anywhere from 30 to 50% more energy efficient than code compliant for the state of Washington. That's a ton of savings for homeowners. That's a ton of savings for the environment. That's a ton of savings all the way around. And we can accomplish it in a way that realistically is recouped within 5 to 7 years.
So the nice thing is you can literally, you see the benefit on your heating and cooling bill. I mean, me and Sarah just did an interview with one of our homeowners from a year ago out in Roy. And so we asked them, what's the best thing that you love about the house? And she says, my air conditioning is cold and I like it cold. My husband hates it, but I love it. And my bills are like nothing. They're very super low, and she leaves her house cold. And so that was her number one thing. And I think that's for us, what's really important is to show that benefit as soon as you can, not 20 years from now, 10 years from now at a depreciating scale.
Yeah. You don't have to wait. Yeah, you don't have to wait to see it. This is something you'll know. Your first winter, you'll notice. I think we've all lived in a house or an apartment or someplace like that, either as kids or as young adults, where we had inefficient heating or cooling, and that
Cold
first
basement.
winter. That first winter, that utility bill is $400.
Single pane. I mean, we're everyone's a kid at some point,
Single pane aluminum windows that sweat because the condensation was so bad.
Mold growing out the corners.
Yeah, you had to constantly wipe them down.
Yeah.
Close the other doors in your house. I'm sure everybody's done that at some point.
Yeah.
It's wintertime. Close those other doors so we don't have to heat them.
Yeah.
When you do that, by the way, you're creating a mold condition in those other rooms for our climate zone. So please don't do that. Call us and call an HVAC company, and we can come and help you out. The other thing with HERS ratings, and I think this gets glossed over a little bit, and I want to make sure that we address it. And it goes back to working together, having a general contractor that has all the subs on the same page. When I know I can reduce your air leakage, and I know that we're going to do X, Y, or Z for thermal resistance for your R values, that allows your HVAC contractor to change his load sizing for those furnace units that are going to put in, or ductless heat pump units, whatever the case may be. So now I don't have to run, let's say a house like this was probably called for a 3-ton unit. And by reducing my air leakage and increasing my R values, I can now run a 2-ton unit. Mm-hmm. So you're saving money right off the bat. So first and foremost, homeowners are saving money. But second, that HVAC unit is not running full tilt all the time to try to keep up.
Right.
It gets to run at its own peak energy efficiency level. Right. Which means that not only does it save you money on your utility bill, because it's not humming all the time.
Yeah, 50 to 60% versus 89,
exactly.
95%.
And it also is going to last longer. Yeah. So you have that HVAC unit where a lot of people, my furnace burns out. Oh, this furnace is 15 years old. It's on its last legs. It's on its last legs because that thing has to run as hard as it possibly can just to try to keep up with where you're setting the thermostat.
Yeah. Well, look at this house. It's wrapped like a furnace.
Yeah.
Or like a thermos. So if you put heat in there, it's going to maintain the heat. If you put cold air in there, it's going to maintain that cold air.
Well, and this is the difference of maybe that I like to use the analogy. The cooler you had growing up as a kid when you went camping, right? That red metal or green metal with the little flip top lid.
Oh, the cooler.
Yeah, the cooler. Yes, you're and it didn't work very well. Ice wouldn't last very long. But now you go out and you get one of these high fancy, the Yetis or whatever coolers.
Oh, yeah. Your ice
lasts for a week.
Yeah.
We're doing the same thing with homes.
That's right.
And
insulation,
air sealing, and quality building. Yeah. If the framing is not good, I can't do anything about that. If the framing has got a lot of gaps and a lot of things that don't make sense, there's nothing I can do about that. If the windows aren't installed well or they don't have the right U values to them, they're going to lose more energy than I can save you in this wall. So again, by working in conjunction, let me back that up. By working in conjunction, we're able to help each other, help the homeowners, the end result client, and you guys get the benefit of it. So we've been with Diggs now 3 years
or so. Yeah.
something like that. The first project that we had, you guys called me and you said, hey, we want to go over some stuff and we want to really increase we're starting to pursue HERS ratings. We really want to increase what we're doing.
Offer a better product through
Absolutely.
insulation.
Can you come take a look? No problem. I am an insulation contractor. I'm also a building science expert. That's my background, is building science. So I said, sure, I'll come out and take a look. And it's something that we do for builders, whether we've done work with you before or not. I'll go look at anybody's project. I have a lot of fun with it. And it was, hey, we can do these things for you. And this. We might want to change the way that we frame this. The big one, I think, was changing the way we do those fireplaces. I know we had a conversation the first house we looked at. Traditionally, you'll see those fireplaces are in almost like a 6-sided enclosure, and there'll be a bump out, right? Because we don't want to lose some of that interior space of the house. Those are really energy inefficient when we do that. Sure. So we made that change immediately, and stuff like that works out. One thing that for me, I work with, again, being around as long as we are, I have 100 builders. I turn down work. I turn down work from builders that don't want to build the way I want to build, and quality matters. I represent a company that's been around the better part of 100 years. I represent a family name, and I'm not going to attach that name to subpar work. So that's been a really good thing with us, is whatever ideas we've bounced off of each other for ways that we can improve, we pursue it, and we pursue it without there ever being an argument. Hey, this is going to be an extra $100. Is it going to be better? Yes. Okay. Yep. And that's been, ultimately, we do well, you do well. Everybody wants to stay in business, but the product that's being delivered to the homeowners, I know I'm satisfied with, and I know Diggs is satisfied with. One thing I will say is that there are ways, anybody can cut corners.
Yeah.
I hate that term. There are ways to save yourself money, though, and a lot of times it's as simple as a small design change. We might have, hey, we wanted to do this. If we frame it just a little bit different, or if we, I've seen stuff, I don't know if it was with one of your projects, but they're planned to be a bonus room over a garage. Maybe down the line, which homeowners want to do, we can turn this space over the garage into something. By doing that, now that's in the permit process, you just increase the cost of that home fairly significantly. When budgets matter, and budgets matter to everybody, there's a lot of ways to do it. I never want to build a house, though, with any of my builders, but with you guys in particular, with the HERS ratings and everything else that we pursue. I never want to build a house that I don't have that homeowner come back to you and say, man, it was our first winter in the house. I was able to keep the house at the temperature I wanted. My utility bills were reasonable or way better than I was expecting. Those things matter.
Every single one, since we've been working with you, doing the HERS ratings and doing all the extra bells and whistles, every single homeowner has told us in video interviews that that's one of the best things about their home is the low energy consumption.
Well, and that's a benefit to everybody, right? As we get into, you never know what the economy does, and as we get into different points, if you can know that I'm going to save money here, right? That I'm not going to have that unexpected $500 utility bill in December. I think we've all been there at different points. That's a huge relief. That helps you budget. That helps you, and then you get to be comfortable, right? It's not throwing an extra sweatshirt in the wintertime. You can come home. You can come home after a hard day at work, and you can change into your basketball shorts and a t-shirt and be in your home and be comfortable. You cannot have the chilly, cold floors when you wake up in the morning.
Yep.
You slide your feet off the bed, and you're like, whoa, and you got to run into the comfort matters. Comfort, energy efficiency. It's what we do.
Can you speak to the difference between a SIPS home in a HERS rated home as far as efficiency or ICF?
Sure.
We lived in a ICF home over in Bonnie Lake Taps, and it had 9-inch concrete walls, and we had a 6-inch slab floor. All the walls were concrete, and I thought that was the cat's pajamas right there. I thought that was awesome until our energy bills were almost $400 a month. Heating and cooling, and the windows, the heat still goes out of the house, either through the roof or through the windows.
Well, and when so those are mass. We call those mass walls. right? So
Yeah,
you
thermal
have something
mass.
that's got a thermal mass to it.
Yeah.
Whether that's a concrete wall, whether that's a SIPS panel, something like that. Those walls, up to whatever that initial thermal resistance is, do a great job. So it's why when you go into your basement and it's a hot day and you go into your basement, it's cooler. That's fantastic. Over time, if that wall gets exposed to that same temperature, once it reaches, I guess, like core temperature is the same as what outside has been, that wall takes 3 times longer to cool back down. Right? It's not like it maintains that thermal mass, which is tough, and that's why your utility bills start to go up when you're in that, because now that wall's gotten warmed up, you've got your heat running, you got all this, and it's staying at that temperature, and now
so the sun's just blasting that ICF wall all day. You get 8 hours of direct sunlight, and try to cool 9 inches of concrete down.
Yeah, I mean it's a similar. Yeah, there's no way, right? It's going to take forever to cool that down. Similar concept to when you have a dark colored roof.
Yeah,
a dark colored roof, and you stick your head up in the attic on a hot day. Your attic is 160 degrees.
Yeah.
What's going on? Oh, okay. And then call me. And if you have that, call me, and we'll come
ventilate it.
We'll come figure out why it's happening. But as far as getting back to SIPS, so SIPS is becoming more and more popular.
Yep.
I think that SIPS doesn't make sense for our climate zone, and I'm going to be as politically correct as I possibly can here. SIPS paneling makes a ton of sense when you're in places that have long extended, very, very hot or very, very cold temperatures.
Arizona, Alaska,
Montana.
It probably makes sense there, actually, if you can afford the extra
and
35, 45%.
Yeah, that's part 2 to that equation, is that the building cost of that is incredibly expensive compared to stick frame.
Well, with COVID, I was talking with a factory that makes SIPS panels, and was it COVID or the Texas freeze?
Texas freeze is when it started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they are having a hard time getting the raw materials. Mm-hmm. So the raw materials comes in 55-gallon barrels, and I saw it's just a big glue, right? A clear glue, and they pour it in and they treat it and it expands the EPS foam.
Yeah, so you have it's a 2-part process, actually 3-part if you include oxygen, but you have a resin and a foaming agent.
Yeah. And
then you have the oxygen that gets introduced, and that's how you end up with your individual foam cells. So if you've ever cut a piece of styrofoam open, you look at it from the inside, you have little hollow foam cells in there. EPS foam is very similar. Spray foam is also very similar.
When I saw that, the first thing that I saw when I saw them making the wall is that can't be very friendly to the environment.
That being said, cost is enormous. What we can insulate a house for with traditional, fiberglass and with U-framing, stick-built home compared to doing anything with a SIPS paneling, is tough. I get a lot of people that want to ask about spray foam, and they'll say, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" You can absolutely do whatever you want. I don't recommend it. You don't need it.
And because you do remodels, not just new construction, and so with those SIPS panels, they have to cut chases in to run the wiring, the plumbing, and then after the fact, if you ever want to remodel, add on water leak. Talk about that.
I had a client in Gig Harbor. This is 2 summers ago. They had a SIPS built home that was 3 years old, and they had what ended up being a water leak, and they had to cut a portion of ceiling out. And now you're getting in there with your big knives and you're cutting out chunks of wet foam to be able to expose what you need to do to work on stuff. And they called us up and said, "Hey, can you come look at my job?" Sure. And I get out there and, well, what can you do for it? Not a lot. Mm-hmm. The SIPS foam, so they have chases that are cutting them for plumbing and wiring. If you ever want to change something after the fact, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
If you ever have an issue or you want to, a common one I see, let's say it's in your bedroom, right? I'm sure we've all seen these. So in this particular home, it looks like the bed is probably going to go on this wall between these 2 windows, right? Now, with that, you might have, you got your plugins on each side of the bed for everybody plugging in your cell phones, lamps, whatever you want to have. Now, what happens when they move it over here and they want to add another outlet on the other side of the bed over here?
It's almost impossible.
If in our world right now for this, that's an electrician that's going to be here for about 4 hours, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. Might have a little bit of drywall patch, might have to do a little bit of paint, but is that impossible? Absolutely not. And it's not even something that I'm going to be freaked out about. It's an easy job. If this is a SIPS home on an exterior wall and you want it, you can't.
Yeah.
You're cutting out the bottom, whatever 3 feet of that wall. and then you're patching in traditional materials instead of the SIP. So that's where it's at. If you're in modular homes, I can see where it makes a lot of sense. If you're in some place that gets, if you're in the Yukon and it's tough to get building materials or tough to build up there because your season's short, and you want to be able to really slap something together quickly, okay. Someplace that gets to be negative 40 degrees, okay. Again, we live in a rainforest here. Climate Zone 4C is a rainforest. We are very moderate. We are very temperate. We don't get crazy long periods of extreme hot. We don't get crazy long periods of extreme cold. It may feel that way sometimes when it's 2 weeks and we're in the 90s in August. But when I'm talking about other climate zones, I'm talking about places that is their reality for 12 weeks. And then there's 12 weeks that they're in the negatives. We don't have to worry about that.
So overall with SIPs, it's the way that we're using traditional framing with advanced insulation techniques. It's lower cost. It's a better energy rating with a third-party verification system.
Correct.
So it's easier if you ever want to add on, move a wall, add power, add plumbing. In addition, it's just way easier, and it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. And if we're talking about bang for buck again, and we want to get to return on investment, you're going to get your return on investment with a quality built stick frame home compared to a SIPS panel home. I don't know, honestly, in our climate zone, because we don't get too hot, too cold, I don't know if you would ever reach return on investment.
Yeah.
I think you're probably talking about like a 40 plus year ROI in that, and that's not what a lot of people want to do. So,
Okay.